Hey, what's good, everybody? I'd like to welcome you all to a brand new episode of the Boombox Guru. I'm your host, LB, and on today's episode, we're going to talk about my top three Fishbone albums. Now, for those of you who may not be familiar with Fishbone, they are a rock band from Los Angeles, California. They formed back in 1979 when all the members were teenagers, still in high school, and their sound is a fusion of ska, punk rock, metal, funk, and soul, and as well as reggae. Uh, they tend to like switch all kinds of different styles in their music. So they're one of those bands that you really can't pigeonhole them into a certain label or category music wise. Now the band has gone through several lineup changes throughout its tenure, which is 41 years, but the two constant members of the band have been bassist John Norwood Fisher and frontman Angelo Moore. Now, recently, most of the original members of the lineup, save for Kendall Jones, who was the original lead guitarist, have actually come back to the band. They've actually been doing shows and so forth. Don't know if there's going to be any new material that's going to materialize from the original lineup coming back into the fold. I hope so. Hope we do get a new Fishbone album sometime soon because the last album came out in 2006, I believe. So it's been a long time since we got any really new material. They have released a few EPs here and there, but it'd be nice to get a full length album from Fishbone again. But anyway, we're gonna get right into this video where I'm talking about my top three Fishbone albums. These are my three go-to albums anytime I get on a Fishbone kick. So we're gonna start with my first pick, which is gonna be Truth and Soul. This is Fishbone's second full-length album, but their third release overall, released in 1988. And Truth and Soul was a breakthrough record for the band because, for one, this was the album where they started to implement a lot more of the hard rock and metal into their funk, soul, R&B, ska sound. They started to implement that. One song in particular called "Freddie's Dead," which was a cover of Curtis Mayfield's song of the same name, which kicks off the album. Great cover, by the way. It was a great cover, man. I mean, the way they took that song and just turned it into a hard rock number. They even added their own lyrics to the song, which made it their own in some ways. They just knocked it out of the park with that, man. And then they released a single called "Ma and Pa," which was more along the lines of ska punk from like the earlier years, but one of their most catchiest songs in my opinion. Sometimes I find myself just singing that song like if I'm at work or I'm just busy focusing on something. It's a very catchy song, but it's one of those songs where the music is in contrast to the lyrics. Because if you listen to the lyrics, it's about like being in a dysfunctional family, where the parents aren't getting along and the kids are like caught in the middle. It's one of those types of songs, but there's a lot of social commentary and stuff sprinkled throughout this record. This is where the band started to really uh, discuss things and get a little bit more serious as far as talking about things that were relevant of the times in 88 when this record came out. But yeah, they got a lot more heavier. Kendall Jones, he was starting to get a lot more metal influence with his riffs and such. And they turned out a really good album, but it's still funky as well. You got songs like "Boning in the Boneyard," which is one of their most popular songs. A very catchy, very fun up tempo funk rock track. Then you got one song called "Subliminal Fascism," which is more along the lines of hardcore punk. Ghetto Soundwave, which has a kind of a funky sort of kind of reggae vibe to it. Question of Life, which is more along the lines of R&B and soul. Well, no, Question of Life. I'm sorry, I got that wrong. Question of Life is kind of more of a ska song in tune with kind of like Ma and Pa. But Pouring Rain is the one that has the more of the kind of R&B and soulful vibe to it, man. But just a great record, a breakthrough album that really catapulted Fishbone's popularity. When this record dropped, when Freddie's Dead came out, and then the Mom Pod track, Fishbone just skyrocketed, man. You started seeing Fishbone shirts everywhere. They started making appearances more in movies and TV shows and stuff. I mean, it really just took their popularity to the next level, and rightfully so, because this is a really good album. To me, this is where the band really started to define and formulate their sound. So definitely check this album out, man. One of their best records in my opinion. and a timeless classic. So Truth and Soul by Fishbone, released in 1988. All right, so the next album on my list is The Reality of My Surroundings, released in 1991. And this album actually kind of folds out. It's like a whole poster. I'm going to show it to you guys right quick. But yeah, here's the full album cover right here, which features the whole band. Hope you guys can see that. But yeah, this is the full cover. And The Reality of My Surroundings, man, this was another breakthrough for Fishbone, man. Most people consider this album to be where Fishbone reached their creative peak. It's their most complete album, one of the most complete records, because it takes everything that they had done at that point. You know, the ska punk from the earlier years, the funk and soul, the reggae, of course, the hard rock and heavy metal inspiration. All of this is rolled up into one on this particular album. Such a great release, man. And one of my top favorites as well, man. From start to finish, very cohesive. It flows well together. I do get a little bit bored with those intros called "If I Were a." It's these little intros that were recorded live at a live show that the band were known to do back in the day, where Dirty Walt would come in and ask a question, "If I were," and then Angelo Moore was fast. He would spit like these lyrics that seemed to be more catered to, like, I guess, like sharp social commentary, man. They're kind of like songs, but they're not. They're more like interludes, but they're pretty cool. But and sometimes I can do with or without them. But a lot of great social commentary on here. Talking about like the crack epidemic that was happening around this time. There's a song on here called "Pray to the Junkie Maker," which is a full-on reggae song, but it's a social critique on the effects that the whole crack epidemic was happening at the time. And then you have songs like "Behavior Control Technician," which I guess it talks about how parents can be a little bit too strict on their kids when disciplining them. "Everyday Sunshine," which is a fan favorite, another popular track from the song. Great funk rock track, very Sly and Family Stone vibe. I like the ending part where they kicking off into this like really church gospel mode. I mean, they really take it to church at that end, so definitely check out that track. Let's see. Then you got the pure funk tracks like "Nasty Man" and "Babyhead," which are mainly about sex and so forth. "Sunless Saturday," which is another politically charged track. One of the heaviest tracks on the album. I mean, that's pretty much a metal song in my opinion. Had a cool video directed by Spike Lee when it came out, man. Really good track. That ends the album. "Fight the Youth" was a great track to kick the album off. Another heavier funk metal track. "So Many Millions," another politically charged track. Social commentary, very funky. Lots of great horns, great rhythm. Let's see what else. Pressure was more harkens back to the more hardcore punk. Well, not hardcore, but more ska punk roots of the band's career. But really cool song, man, because it really, the sounds and the style and the tempo of the song gets faster and faster and faster. So it really kind of exemplifies the way Pressure makes you feel when listening to that song, man. So this is overall just a great record, man. I think I would have to say it's probably their best record. Honestly, man, it's their best record. Definitely their most complete. I just don't think they really did anything that really overshadowed Reality of My Surroundings, man. But just a great album. I mean, they really took off when this record dropped. They were doing all kinds of appearances on late night TV, performing. They were doing all kinds of things at this point. There's so many videos of them like doing so many live shows and late night TV appearances during this era, man. They really took off in popularity when this record dropped. So definitely check out Reality of My Surroundings, released in 1991. Great record. And last on my list, but definitely not the least, is "Give a Monkey a Brain and He'll Swear He's the Center of the Universe," released in 1993. Most people just call it simply "Give a Monkey a Brain" because it has a very long title. But again, man, I think a really good record. This one is criminally underrated, though. because at the time that this album came out, there were a lot of problems going on within the band. This was the last album that original guitarist Kendall Jones did. After the recording process of the record, he left the band, and then there was a whole controversy that went behind him leaving the band. I won't say much about it, but there is a really good documentary called Everyday Sunshine about Fishbone that came out back in 2012, which I also own myself. Definitely check out that documentary because it goes more into detail about the events surrounding him leaving the band. And it also gives a great history of the band up until that point when the documentary was done. And it really shows what goes into dealing with a band, like a working cult underground band like Fishbone. But this was a much more heavier album than a Reality of My Surroundings. I would say that the heavier moments from the previous record, like Fight the Youth, Sunless Saturday, they expanded upon more on this album. So there's a lot of heavy numbers on here. I mean, the first 3 tracks on here, Swim, Servitude, and Black Flowers, are just downright hard rock, like heavy metal numbers, man. You know, Swim is a great funk metal opener to the album. Dirty Waltz does the lead vocals on that. Servitude, a great metal hard rocker. Black Flowers, which is probably my favorite on this album, another great hard rocker with more of kind of a grungy feel to it. You know, this is 93. This is when grunge and alternative metal was really at the forefront. Unyielding Conditioning, that song harkens more back to their ska punk roots, you know, during the mid 80s. But this album gets really funky too, man. Properties of Propaganda. I mean, that song right there, man, that song just sounds like it was straight out of the playbook of Parliament Funkadelic, man. They really get downright funky on that record. Lots of cool bass rhythms, a great horn section. You know, Dirty Walt comes in with his funk-inspired vocal approach and like some awesome guitar licks on there, man. Just great. And on this record, man, Fishbone even go into some thrash metal territories, man. With the songs like The Warmth of Your Breath and Drunk Schizo, they go in a little bit of thrash metal territories, but they do it in their way. They don't do like what other thrash metal bands were doing. They do it in the Fishbone way, which I thought was really cool, man. Very heavy, fast tempo, aggressive songs. Then you got Lemon Meringue, which is more of like the R&B soul flavor. In the Rain is another hard rocker. No Fear, another great hard rocker. And then Nut Megalomaniac ends the album, which is just a downright another P-Funk inspired funk number, man. But they really kill it on this album, man. You could say that this album it comes close to being better than the Reality of My Surroundings, man, in a lot of ways. But putting these 2 albums together, the Reality of My Surroundings and Give a Monkey a Brain, I would say that this one is the more accessible album. You know, it has a lot more songs that are a little bit more catchier, that'll stick in your mind a lot more. And Give a Monkey a Brain is the more aggressive, more abrasive album. It's more heavier, you know. It's more heavier and kind of a little dark in places, like, you know, songs like Black Flowers and so forth. But this is the more heavier version right here. This is the more heavier album in my opinion, but still great. Like I said, unfortunately, this album, it got overshadowed by all the controversy surrounding Kendall Jones leaving. And then the band started to have label problems. They ended up getting dropped by Columbia not long after this album. And then they started to lose more key members. Chris Dowd left the band. He was another primary songwriter in the band. He was the one that wrote a lot of the more catchier pop type songs. Then the band soldiered on. Then original drummer Philip Fish Norwood, which is John Norwood's younger brother, he was the drummer. He left the band. So after this album, things kind of just started in a lot of ways falling apart for the band, but Angelo and John Norwood Fisher just kept soldiering on. And thankfully now, most of the original members are back in the band. But yeah, that's my top 3, and that was Give a Monkey a Brain, released in 1993. Great records. So yes, that's it for this top 3 video of my top 3 Fishbone albums. Hope you guys like this video. If you're somebody that's not familiar with Fishbone, I hope this video inspires you to definitely go and check out their music. Definitely go check out that documentary called Everyday Sunshine The Story of Fishbone. That is a great documentary. I hold it up there the same as like Some Kind of Monster by Metallica. Actually, I think Everyday Sunshine is better than Some Kind of Monster by Metallica. But definitely go check that out. Check out the band. They're a great band. Hope one day I could catch them live. I don't know if they come my way too much, but I just hope one day I can catch them live. And as always, I appreciate everybody that's watching these videos. I appreciate every last one of my subscribers, old and new. If you like the content, definitely give me a thumbs up. It helps with the algorithm. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit the bell. That way you'll be notified when I drop new content. Share the video. And as always, hope everybody has a blessed day, a blessed week, and love, peace, and music. Peace out, y'all.